Hello everyone, welcome to this side of the internet. My name's Brandon, and I got some Destiny photos here that I took while playing Destiny, and I was playing the game, and this is a problem I got when I play video games, especially gorgeous video games. I'm always stopping and taking screenshots of them, and I think that's a good thing as an artist. Always be on the lookout for interesting concepts and try to learn from them. Always keep your eyes open for that sort of thing. And, if you're going to play video games, take it as an opportunity to get something out of it still. So this first shot that we're looking at is a simple 1-point perspective kind of shot. You can see it's roughly around there. You can see that you can get some really interesting results with a 1-point perspective. It doesn't have to just be a room with a couch in it and some windows and a door and whatever you want to put in a room. It can be like these really interesting landscapes type of stuff like this. So I really like this image because of the we got complementary colors, orange and blue, and there's a good level of depth in this image. You can see the repetition of these materials here, and repetition's good for creating depth. You got this overlap, and you have like it creates a familiar shape, so you see it in the foreground and then you see that repeat through the background, and then you can accept those shapes even if they're not fully rendered. You know what they are. So if you have like a really large object in the foreground and you see that same kind of silhouette in the background, you can get a sense of depth and scale of a world like that. So that's kind of what's going on with these, and you got a little bit of atmospheric perspective and fog going on right here. It's a nice little touch. But yeah, overall the complementary colors are playing very nice. They got this dark gradient separating them, but this light is also an indication of where to go for the player. Like, it does kind of stand out, kind of like, hey, look at me over here, so this is the way you go. And it's very simple because it is like a narrow corridor, so I mean it's simple. Like the character, me playing this game, has no question about where I need to go, so the objective is obvious. So that was a really neat way to do this, and also like how everything's on like a slant, kind of creates this sense of vertigo or whatever. As an artist, I'm taking these as all little notes for potential concepts for me later when I'm doing a piece, and I might even do a thumbnail study of this and then like applied study of this, using the same techniques, like this repetition of shapes and 1-point perspective, and then just this overall kind of sci-fi architecture kind of room in the complementary colors. Try to apply that all in maybe a unique way. But yeah, this is I'm taking notes on this. Let's move on to the next one. You can see how this tight is claustrophobic, and it's really neat because it's this 1-point perspective, but it's got this circular kind of feel to it. So it's also got a little bit of that light kind of guiding the player where to go. Like, there's no question about where you need to go and what the viewer needs to be looking at. So I like it for its simplicity in that sense. Simple is key, right? Simple's great. Doing unique things simply is great. So there are some examples that I got in here where it's kind of like, where do I need to look at? So this is another, like, all three of these are 1-point perspective, and they all have like kind of a unique feel to them. Once again, though, they're using light again to guide the player on where to go, and I just really love this one. It's a simple monochromatic color, but then again, it's got this neat atmospheric perspective and kind of fog in it, to increase the mood. It's almost like a horror scene, like from Freddy Krueger or something. Cougar? No, that ain't right. I think what I like most about this piece is the blend of nature and like technology, and I think it's interesting how the lights are interacting with the organic cave shapes, but then there's also like this blend of some kind of alien technology here. Like this area isn't necessarily organic, but this kind of does right here, and then this looks very smooth, like it's been made to look like that like that's man-made. But I know the way some caves are formed, the ceilings are a little bit smoother, but this looks more like an architectural design. So I like the blend of the two. These hard shape, clearly defining perspective lines, and then all around it is these organic shapes. So this stands out. This is definitely the focal point because of the shape language contrast. We got more curves and more organic shapes here, and then we just got these cubes sitting here in a 2-point perspective. So I really love how this whole little room is kind of silhouetted here, and then the background with that contrasting color to create this atmospheric perspective. And then they've added like these trees and these other kind of like organic, those actually almost might be man-made. They look more like they were carved out with like cubes. And then the sphere here, that's definitely not organic, but it's got this blend of the two, and that's something I really like, especially just the way this is silhouetted out, and then you got this window into the unknown, like what's out there, like creating this sense of wonder in the viewer is something that I've realized could be a powerful composition technique, where you create like the viewer of your piece is wondering like what's up over that hill, like what's behind there. If I just peek my head right over there, what could I find? And that's what this is doing for me. Playing the game, I was like, you're very interested in going in this direction and seeing what's up over this hill. With this one, I like this for its color and the angle. We're looking up, and looking up at something is something that I don't draw enough of. So I'd like to start incorporating that more. And you got these, it's just a simple 1-point perspective, but since we're looking up, we also got these merging lines on our verticals. So you can see roughly like that. You can see it's a little off, but doing this quickly, they're roughly merging like that, and roughly right there too. So we got this 1-point perspective, but since we're not parallel to this back wall, we're tilting our heads up. It's converging with this extra perspective right there at the top. So that's a takeaway there. I might do a study of this one because I really like it. For those compositional techniques that I don't incorporate in my artwork as much, and that's what I'm really looking for here, is not things that I do all the time, but things that I'm not ever really thinking about. So if I can do thumbnail studies of these, that can kind of start to incorporate it into my bank of artistic knowledge, and I can try to pull from that later on when I'm creating my own unique art pieces. Triangles, it's interesting how you can incorporate these basic geometric shapes and this organic environment, and all of a sudden it looks like it has some intelligence in it, because this isn't something that you normally see in the real world. Well, this isn't something that you see organically. This does look man-made. So I thought that was interesting, and it's got this nice little blue light coming from it to contrast with the rest of the world. So you're immediately your eyes looking at that, not just for its shape contrast, but for its color contrast. This one, looking up again and getting ideas from that, and trying to work on my perspective while looking up at things. So I wanted to do a study of this, and it also has a sense of wonder. Like, what can I see beyond this hill? What's going to be in these ruins of this ship? I liked it for the most part, but it was also a example of looking down, and how I didn't really like that, but it does a good job at that. I just feel like I want to branch out from that kind of style, so I can create more of these really low horizon line kind of pieces where there's a lot of depth, but you don't have to look down, and your horizon line doesn't have to be so high up in order to create that depth. So that's, but I didn't want to include this because there was elements that I liked about it, such as the perspective of this pieces of this ship leading your eye directly into this into the rest of the ship, and how the light contrasting with the greens was directing your eye right in there. And this last one I took just for a light reference. I like these bulbs that they got in here, and I think if I want to do any sci-fi things in the future, I'm definitely going to include these types of lights. They're very neat because they don't omit a lot of light. Like, the fall off is very condensed, so they're not very practical. Like, look how many that's there, and they're barely lighting up that corridor. So it's but it's still pleasing to look at. But this one also, compositional wise, is leading the viewer directly into that corridor and down the stairs or wherever it goes, and I found that interesting in itself, creating that sense of wonder also, like what's down there. Let's get into thumbnail painting, and I'm going to take a couple of these and just kind of do some quick thumbnails and try to learn from them. Alright, so I just finished the first two here, and something that I think is important to be said about doing these thumbnails is that I am not going for perfection. If I was going for perfection, then I would be spending hours and hours and maybe even days on just one study here. And when it comes to studying and learning digital painting and different concepts and all that thing, I think quantity is better than quality. Okay, so I think the faster that I can do these and just get the basic ideas down, the quicker I can go on to the next one and learn from that piece. Okay, so that's the goal here, and the things that I'm looking for are shape language, trying to learn how to design interesting shapes, and so I can carry those forward into the new projects that I may be doing. Learning from perspective. Initially on this top one, I didn't create as much depth as I needed to, and there is a lot of depth that can be communicated with just a few different lines, such as this this area right here, I kind of just skimmed over at first, but once I put in like this blacker area mixed with a little bit of this blue, that really started to communicate the distance in there. Since things get smaller as they get further back and they get closer together, it's easy to kind of just speed paint your way and over that and not really communicate that. So that's something that I learned from this, is kind of slow down and make sure you get those little finer details in there and to communicate that compression. It's a little counterintuitive because I said finer details and I'm talking about not going too detailed with this, but when it comes to things like that, I could slow down because that is something that I struggle with and I want to focus more on. So perspective, shape language, the depth, and the color palette. I wasn't eyedropping anything on here, which you totally could if you wanted to really to check your work. I think guessing first and then checking after to see how close you were is a good habit, but I've done that a lot before. So for these two, I wanted to choose my own colors and just get as close as possible. And you can see that even when I'm not eyedropping, I'm getting pretty close to the idea, because there's a lot of colors in between the accurate color that can communicate the same idea. These aren't the same colors because I didn't eyedrop them, but I got pretty damn close and they look pretty close. I mean, if I eyedrop them, you're probably going to see. I mean, there's somewhat of that color. Like, so all I'm seeing is a very bright, well, it's not actually that bright. It's about midway. A mid-tone but very saturated orange. So, and it's probably a little brighter than what I put it at. But no, yeah, pretty damn close. But I made mine a little bit redder. You can see this is shifting down a little. And so when I click here, it's going to shift up. Yeah, theirs is a little bit more orange, but still, it looks pretty close because you just look for those three things: value, color, and saturation. And when I look at this, I'm like mid-tone, highly saturated orange. For something like this, I felt this was a little bit redder than this, and as you can see, the different shift here is correct. So for this one, I did the same, but since this one's not as orange as theirs, the contrast isn't as much, but still overall communicates. This looks a little bit wider, maybe a little bit taller than mine, but things like that I'm okay with because I gotta keep it moving. Alright, so the same thing with this one. I was really struggling with this shape here. You could even see in the time lapse that I was moving it over and seeing how far off I was, and I was very far off, but I didn't want to get too bogged down with that, so I kept it moving, and I made a decision and I got it. It looks like I'm coming out a little too far here. Maybe it would have went down a little bit sooner. But yeah, that's okay. The general perspective's alright. Maybe I could have done a little bit better job separating this piece with this piece. And yeah, so even now as I'm explaining what I did, I'm still trying to learn. I'm going to move forward and try to wrap up the rest of these. And I really just want to get to this one, and I might just do that one. We'll see, because I'm actually spending about 30 minutes to 40 minutes a piece on this, and that's, you can spend however long you want. I do recommend under an hour though, if you're wanting to do this for yourself and do like these little thumbnail studies. Let's get back to it. Alright guys, just to make this real quick here, I'm sure the video is getting pretty long. I mean, look at me. It's already been a new day. That's how long this has been going on. No, I was getting a little fatigued with the first 3 or 4, and then I put off doing the last one for another day. But yeah, we got it done. We got the thumbnails done. We got the studies done, and I think overall I accomplished what I wanted to with this, and that is not always just wasting your life and playing video games, but taking inspiration from those video games that you play. And so I did the thumbnails. I really like this top one, the second one, and then yeah, these kind of and then this bottom one's pretty good. I feel like the bottom one, I was most loose with this one. It was really kind of like I wasn't caring too much about placement or anything. I had one thing and as a goal for this, and that was to show the depth that it's got and that silhouette. So really dark here in the foreground, and that atmospheric perspective in the background where it's just kind of green, but how all this is just kind of chopped out here. And the depth, I feel like, is lacking a little bit. I feel like, I don't know if it's the details in like right here and here that are communicating the depth, and I kind of just implied that a little bit, but it does seem like this one is setting further back than this one, and you can really see that ground, how it recedes back. So, and I don't know if mine really communicates that. So there's something going on here that mine's not. I mean, it kind of gets it, but kind of doesn't as much as I want it to. But that's what we do these for. We do these to learn and study them. But I think I got pretty close, so we should do more. But anyways, this one, I don't know what happened with this one. I was just want to do a simple kind of mock-up of it and not get too bogged down with the colors or details, and it's hard to read, kind of. But I mean, I can see what's going on, and because I drew it. But yeah. And this one was just super quick. I wasn't really inspired by this one as much as I wanted to get to this one and these. So I did it kind of awkwardly and really quick and loose. And so I was really doing it as just a reminder. Like, I felt if I painted these types of light bulbs, then I'd remember to include that type of light bulb in the future when I do my own sci-fi piece. And so it's locked in that image library, that my mental image library. So that's all that was really done for. The rest was just kind of extra and accomplishing more than I really needed to or wanted to. But I mean, I could say, hey, this is what I want to focus on and achieve only that, or I could, try to put a little bit of effort into it and try to do perspective and try to do depth. Or I feel like it's actually better to focus just on one thing. So that's why it kind of fell apart there at the end. And I was just like, I already accomplished what I wanted to. So on to the next one is basically how I felt. And so, yeah, maybe a little bit of balance of both. Focus on the main thing that you want. Like if it's color, don't get too bogged down with the perspective and the drawing of everything. Focus more on the color and getting that accurate. I wasn't focused on the color on any of these because I feel like that's one of my strong suits. So I don't want to get too wound up. That's why I didn't even do this one in color or anything. So anyways, I'm just starting to ramble now. So that's all I got. Give these a shot. Give thumbnails studies and master studies a shot. And yeah, especially if you're one of those people that don't know what to draw, these are great to just have a collection of inspiring photos and just draw from that and do quick little thumbnails. They're great, and they'll spark ideas. I've gotten a ton of ideas now for how I could maybe like combine certain elements from this piece and create my own unique piece. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. That going, and as soon as I start recording, you have to come in here and start meowing. Meow. Meow. Meow.